So a little bit about me. So I'm a guy from native Chicago, born and raised in Chicago, grew up there, and I didn't think that I would find myself today in Hollywood making movies and writing scripts and directing and producing. For the longest time, I thought I was going to be, somebody's VP of some corporation somewhere in Chicago. I didn't even think I was going to end up in California. What happened was that I went, I was working in Chicago and I got recruited by a publishing company in Santa Barbara to come out and be director of marketing for them. And I'm like, okay, I'm out. I had never been to California before. California, great weather and all these wonderful things about it. So I was like, okay, I'll go to California. So I did that job for about almost a year. And I realized something about myself that I didn't know before. And that was I really love the energy of the city. Santa Barbara is a beautiful place, but it's more of a vacation city. And, on a Friday night at 9 p.m., I'm like, oh, there's nothing to do except watch TV because everything is closed and there are no people out and about. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to last in this environment. So I decided to, step away from that position and moved down to Los Angeles. They had moved me out from Chicago, so I had no way to get home. So I was basically stranded. And so I was like, well, maybe the universe has put me on this journey for a reason. Yeah, so I moved down to LA, and everybody thought immediately when I got to LA that I was in entertainment. And I met so many, established people very quickly, literally on the streets of Santa Monica, like walking from like, on Ocean Boulevard, and they would greet me and speak to me as if I was already a part of the entertainment community and I was already a working professional. And I'm thinking to myself, I've only been here for 2 weeks. Who do you think I am? And so I did find out that they thought I was John Patrick Thomas from the movie To Save the Last Dance. And I'm like, I look nothing like him, but I'll take it. And so after that, I said, well, maybe the universe is telling me I should be an actor. And since I was here in Los Angeles, I'm like, well, might as well go for it because this is the Hollywood is the town for it that. And so I went ahead and started taking classes, Stella Adler, and all the things you do, joining theater companies, doing stage plays, to try to become an artist, become an actor. And so I did that, and after, having been on set and, signed up for central casting, featured extra, to figure out how movie sets actually work. I think that's really important if you're going to be in the industry to understand the ins and outs of the actual set itself and all the moving parts and the people and what everybody kind of really does. And so I did that. And then after going through that experience in terms of being on set and seeing how actors specifically, since that's what I was trying to be at that time, were treated, I'm like, nope, don't want to do that. So I was like, since I love the industry and I've always been a writer, and when I was in school, I went to Northwestern University, and but coming out of high school, I had gotten a scholarship to Wabash College for writing, but I didn't take it. I decided to go to Northwestern instead, because at some point in time I wanted to be a doctor, and I was pre med, biochemistry pre med. And it's so funny. A friend of mine, who we had the same advisor in school. She went on to write for Grey's Anatomy, and she's one of the producers over at Grey's Anatomy now, and she's been there like forever. And so, and we reconnected when I actually came down to LA. And even though I was acting, I went to I'll tell you a little small story. I went to one of those industry panels, and it was for the TV show Survivor. And I remember being in the elevator with the producers of the show. It was over and we were all leaving, and the producer in the elevator, and he decided to ask us questions. So as he went around to the four of us in the elevator, he said, one person said, what do you do? And the young person said, well, I'm an actor. I just got out here and working on that. He goes, oh, wow, good luck with that. The next person he went to, he says, what do you do? Oh, I'm a producer, director. Oh, what are you producing? So he went from good luck with that to what are you producing? And then the next person, like, I'm a writer. Oh, what are you writing? And so he became very interested in everybody who was not an actor. And so when he got to me, I said, oh, I'm working on my acting, but I'm also writing a script. you know, and he goes, oh, really? What are you working on? What are you writing? And I'm like, okay. So, and that's kind of that sparked me to say, you know what? I need to be more than one dimensional. I need to be more than just an actor. I need to start my writing. And so I started writing while I was acting. Um, and I got, did the submissions to the festivals with did the, the what do you call the one act festivals and different things to just feedback on the writing and see if it was any good. And it did well. And I met more people, and that was the thing. I was meeting a lot of talented people here in Los Angeles. We're very fortunate that you know, you have immediate access to anybody you want to have access to. There are a lot of gatekeepers, especially when you're talking about submissions and getting things actually made. But if you're trying to build a network of people that you know and friends that you have, it's really easy to do in LA, especially with high level people. Because everybody wants to sing karaoke. That's the other thing too that I learned here in this town is everybody is a karaoke singer, even though they're not that good. So I often tell people when they come to Los Angeles, if you want to, meet, a celebrity, if you want to meet somebody working in the industry, don't go to Hollywood Boulevard. They're not going to be there unless it's a specific event and they're being paid to be there. If you want to meet them, you go to the little dive bars all over town, and that's where you're going to find them. The entire cast of Friends used to go to a little bar called the Brass Monkey, and I lived a block away from that place. And it's in Koreatown. Yeah, it's in Koreatown. Kiefer Sutherland used to go to a place called Coaching Horses on Sunset Boulevard. I mean, it's no bigger than a living room, and he would sit at the end of the bar and hang out. So that's kind of where you kind of meet people, and you begin to develop friendships. And before you even enter into a conversation about the entertainment industry, what you're doing, what you want to be, one of my good friends is Jason Patrick, and to Patty's writing genre. He was in Lost Boys, one of my favorite vampire films. And when I met him, I was doing karaoke and I was singing badly off key, but he thought it was great. And I'm like, okay, so you're tone deaf. No, but I'm just joking. I'm joking. He's a fantastic. He's a great singer also. And so we became friends, but we didn't really talk about the industry until maybe like, 6, 7 months of me actually knowing him and hanging out and just doing karaoke songs. So I often tell people that, if you come to LA and you want to kind of get involved, do those things. Join if you're an actor, join central casting, find out how sets work, find how actors get treated when you're coming up through the ranks. If you want to, meet deepen your network, then you go to places like the dive bars. You know what I'm saying? If you can't afford to go to an actual event, one of those, whether you buy a seat or you buy a table, then you go to the dive bars, and then also do as many festivals as you can. Submissions, if you're a writer, submit your work. I know it gets really really costly because I went through it myself, but you build a network of people, you get really good feedback, and then you never know what other writers you might meet that you can collaborate with. And everybody has um a level of connection or a level of connection to investors or production. You'd be surprised. When I was one of the things I did was I was when I was an actor, because my agent told me I had to get tape on myself. So I'm like, okay, how am I gonna get tape on myself? So I was on the set of the movie Bandits that starred Bruce Willis and Billy Bob Thornton and Kate Blanchett. And I'm sitting there, and when the guy says to me, "No, dude, you need an agent, you need a manager." Town, he introduces me to his agent and his manager, and that's how I got my first agent and manager by by sitting there. And then when I got that agent and manager, they said in order to get tape, what you need to do is you need to do student films. So off I went to USC, UCLA, AFI, and when I got to AFI, that was the best experience because they all kind of pair in little pods, and they kind of swap out as they go. And you probably guys probably all know this already. Um, but the cool thing was, if they like you, then they continue to book you on all their projects as they make them. So it's easy to get tape. Now, granted, it's only copy credit meals, which means you're not getting paid, but you're getting that tape that your agent or manager needs to help push you out there into the industry, which is great. And so, and then so, and then the writing, getting back to the writing. And so I wrote my first screenplay in 2006. I started the production company in 2006 as well. But I didn't really do anything with it. I was still an actor. My last in front of the camera gig was in 2010. And so I remember I wrote the screenplay and I was like, okay, I have this like 140-page screenplay, thinking that was great, right? Who knew it was too long? And so I wrote this 140-page screenplay. I ended up teaming up with my a writers group from my school. I went to Northwestern University. We had a writers group out here. We have a big contingent of folks out here. And so I went to the writers group, and that's where we connected with the woman I was telling you guys about earlier, who writes for Grey's Anatomy, in the writers group. And this was before she actually had gotten the Grey's Anatomy. She had she had done spec scripts for them, and it was looked like she was going to actually get involved. But she had gone ahead and became a doctor. She did a residency out here in California, and I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I should have finished. I should have finished. I should have finished my pre-med. But it was not for me. I realized I don't like the sight of other people's bodily fluids. So, I'm like, no, don't bleed, please. And so, but I remember that script, that 140-page script, and I had taken it into the group to read. And I remember they read it, and the feedback was from her specifically. She says, "So, Ed," I'm like, "Yes." She goes, when you wrote this, did you play every character? And I said, yes. Isn't that how you do this? Because I hadn't no formal writing experience, right, in terms of screenplays. She goes, nope, because you've done everybody's job. You've done the director's job, you've done the actor's job. Now you've given nobody any room. You basically actor proofed and director proofed your script. So nobody will be able to do anything from the standpoint of their own creativity with what you provided. And I'm like, oh, well, what should I do? And so they ripped it apart and started stripping out stuff, and they kind of culled it down. I'm like, oh, okay. But that was a valuable lesson because everybody in the entertainment industry has a job to do. And you guys probably heard this before. The script you start out with is not what you might see on screen, because the actors are going to bring their artistry. The director's going to bring his vision, and your words on the page are basically a blueprint for them to do their job. And so that's why, me as a writer now, so many years later, I'm not attached to any of my words on the page anymore. I'm like, if that needs to change, so you as the artist can deliver it in a way that's believable and it's effective, and we still get the journey we're on, I'm 100% all about it. Because I believe that everybody has the project is what do you call the project benefits from everybody's creativity coming together. It makes the best project you can have. Um, and that was my first script. Now, the script was called Paralyzed, and the friend that I'm talking about is Joanne Clack, and she is on Grey's Anatomy and that whole Shonda Rhimes team. After I wrote that one, I wrote another one called Deadly Enterprise. And so for some reason, I got in my head that being a new writer, I could just write a feature film and somebody somewhere in this town would just give me a bunch of money to make it. No, that's not exactly how that happens. And
You
so,
know, we want it to be, but
right, you still want it to be. You believe like I'm fresh off this bus. I just got off the Greyhound, and I'm here. Hollywood, love me. That is never the case. And so, but that's not true. There have been a select few friends that I've met along the way who were brand new, and in 6 months, next thing you knew, they were opposite Mal Wahlberg in a movie. I'm like, well, how did that happen? And so, but that's not the norm. Um, so I wrote my next screenplay, and I was fortunate enough to have a publishing contact who had a director contact and a script reader contact for William Morris. And so he introduced me out at Jerry's Deli in Jerry's and Marina Del Rey. Jerry's Deli in Marina Del Rey. He introduced me. And the guy read this. It took him about 6 months to actually read the script, the script writer guy. And he finally read, he got back to me around Christmas. He goes, I love this. And this reads just like a film, but you've done so many technically things wrong that the highest level of industry will look at this script and think that you're green and you don't know what you're doing, but you're telling a really good story. So he said, I work with Tim Story, and Tim Story just did Barbershop, and now he's going to be doing one of the Fantastic Four movie. And I said, okay. And I said, do you think Tim would want to do the script? And he was like, well, no, because we have to do a lot of cleanup first. And when I met with him, like our second meeting, he said he took out of his bag a stack of 4 or 5 William Morris scripts that had already been made. He goes, I need you to read all of these and see how professional writers write for the industry. And so I did. And he was right. I went through and changed a lot. And now I'm going to share my screen to show you what I made. I can find how do I show? Oh, there it is, share. All right. Now, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So this is a script that I wrote called Deadly Enterprise. And that I was talking about from the standpoint of after he made I was reading more scripts and I made a lot of changes because this is an action thriller. So as you guys can kind of see, I want to draw your attention toward the bottom where it says interior gallery inside night chaos flames debris smoke guests scream and run. And so initially when I had written that it was a long sentence, lots of commas, and but it didn't move. And once I started reading the Williams Morris scripts, I realized that you don't have to have a complete sentence in your action or your descriptions. And sometimes shorter descriptive words are more powerful and better. And so I ended up writing now I should say I write all my actions like this when I'm doing an action thriller, and I write across genres. That's the other thing too. I don't limit myself, even though I've met several people who want me to say you have to be a director or a writer or a producer, and I'm like, well, George Clooney's all of them, so why can't I do that? So I you know what I'm saying. So I tend to write across genres, so action thrillers, comedies, rom-coms, sci-fi, all of it. And but I've learned that depending on the genre, you write in a specific style, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So, and this is a sample of the how I write action now. The my revenge thriller, and I will share a little bit of that one too. Hope you guys can see this one. This is the 8th year, the project I'm currently working on. I have 6 features and 2 TV series that I'm working, and the 8th year is the first one that we are actually gearing up to move forward. And you can see this writing style on this is completely different. They're more complete sentences because this is a revenge thriller and it's more psychological. So it's not all of that action explosions and movement happening. It's more deliberate and methodical. Right. So I'm gonna stop sharing. And um and so those are just like 2 samples of you know how I write depending on the task at hand. And so when I after I finished the Daily Enterprise, the action one action one I just shared, the script writer said, "This is fantastic. This is great. I'm gonna see if I can get it over to William Morris to Tim to see if he wants to actually direct it after it was all cleaned up and done." And so 3 months goes by, I go by and I never hear anything back. So I finally contact him. He goes, "Well, they have it. It's on their desk and they're looking at it." So it went into that dreaded thing of call that we call turnaround, where it's sitting on somebody's desk. But because there was a limitation on those things, it's now back in my camp and it's part of my six features on my slate. I mean, you guys probably already know this too, but there's a very difference between a slate and a library. Library is the finished product. Slates are everything you're trying to get done still. So the 8th year is the first one out of the box. And so while I was waiting for William Morris to get back to me on the Daily Enterprise, he said to me, goes, you have a $40 million picture and you're an unknown writer, unknown talent. You need to write something small, something you can make yourself or will not cost a lot of money for somebody else to help you make. And so that's when I wrote a short called Caged. I co-wrote a short called The Watchers. And then I also produced and directed a short called 30 Days to Say Goodbye. And so I think I mentioned my last in front of the camera gig was in 2010. So in 2013, I already had the production company in place. I started writing the shorts and moving forward to producing those shorts. Um, And when I decided that, given they were like, anywhere from 12 minutes to a half hour long, depending on which short. I decided that, I was going to utilize the people that I knew in town, as opposed to trying to get a name or trying to, get a famous GP to help me out. Utilize the people you know, because I already had connections from the kids over at AFI and USC, and they're highly talented individuals. They're going to school for it, right? So I was utilizing the folks that I knew, and within I want to say 2 months, we shot all three shorts. When and in 2016 we released 2016 2017 we started releasing those shorts into the film festival market, and that's how I ended up meeting Sean, because the festival there in San Antonio they were so nice enough to actually screen one of my pieces.
It
I
was
think it was
not
30,
nice enough. It was amazing. That was 30 Days to Say Goodbye, wasn't it?
yes sir, it was 30 days to
Yes,
say
it
goodbye.
was.
And I remember Sean was so funny, you guys. Sean says to me, we were talking about the movie, and there's a scene in the film, in the short, where the guy, his husband has passed away and left him with two kids, right? And he thinks he sees his husband, and his husband puts his arms around him, and then we cut away and we cut back, and his husband has disappeared. And Sean was like, "Oh yeah, I know how you did that." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And Sean was like, "Yeah." So as the camera cuts away, he kind of tucks down behind the bed. I'm like, movie magic at its finest. And so, but yeah, and that's exactly how we did. And so,
And
but I
I
was
was right.
yeah, you were right. You're right. But it was just funny, what I'm saying. But the story, but but it doesn't take away from the story. Yeah, no one knows that. No one knows that. I just gave you an insider secret. Except Sean knew it. He knew it immediately. Um, but so we released all the films, and they did really well. The Watchers won in London. We had to fly over to London for the London International Film Festival of Cinema. We won Best Cinematography there. We won for Cage down in Melbourne, Australia. And the funny thing, even though I was utilizing the USC people that I knew and AFI folks, the actors that I knew were from my acting time, and I was fortunate enough to win a few place, I should say, place high in a few acting competitions. And so I met well-established actors. So I ended up getting Eric Roberts actually for 30 Days to Say Goodbye. And I hadn't met him prior to that, actually. We had put a submission up in Breakdown Services. His people contacted us and they asked if the role was still available, he was interested in doing it. And so now we get Eric Roberts for 30 Days to Say Goodbye. With the Cage film, there's a well-known actress, Karen Molina White, Prince of Bel-Air, a Different World, Hanging with Mr. Cooper. She was like the queen of black sitcoms in the 80s, and I met her when I was actually doing one of those one acts with my screenplay. I took my screenplay in. They had actors available to read. She was also participating because she liked to do that with some of her one acts, and I got assigned to read her one act. Met her. She read my one act. Then she wrote a specific one act for us to do together. So fast forward a few years later, I asked her to do my short, and she does the short. So I ended up getting some pretty good people in the short films, which was really nice. And so the short films, after they release, now people will tell you very quickly short films don't make money. People will tell you very quickly short films are nothing more than a calling card, to show that you can actually, make a film. You can actually write a script. That's true and not true. And I say that because what was it? It was Cage screened at the Palm Springs Diversity Film Festival. That's their gay film festival in Palm Springs. And immediately after that, it got picked up by Reverie TV. Reverie TV approached me and they wanted to pick it up. They picked it up for a 4-year contract, because they were building their brand, trying to get established, Reverie TV. And also they had an association with Pluto TV, so it also ended up screening on Pluto TV, which was great. And then the Watchers I was once again in terms of building your network and knowing people. I found out that Amazon was doing a thing specifically for creatives, specifically for indie filmmakers, where you could actually exhibit your work, just like if it were a big Marvel movie, and you would have your own page. You could rent it. You could they could buy it, or they could do a part of their Prime subscription. And so I got one of those. I got into that, and the Watchers short film went up on Amazon Prime in 2017, and it's been up there ever since. And so, and it's a short film, and so, and people are watching it, which is great. And the beauty of that, so when they say, short films don't make money, they have the potential, thanks to Amazon, to make money. So don't just think, oh, I'm just doing this as a calling card. And the other thing that short films get you is the Oscars, because they're Oscar, as you guys probably already know, they're Oscar qualifying film festivals. And that short film, you don't even have to do a bunch of short film festivals. You can do one Oscar qualifier and the Academy sees it, you get shortlisted for the Oscars. Next thing you know, you just won an Academy Award, and now you're on everybody's radar, and every agency in town is trying to reach you to get you to be a part of their team, be a part of their
And I just
team.
want to plug right quick, Dead Center is an Oscar qualifying film festival for short films.
Excellent. Yes, yes, yes. So, mm, excuse me. So, and I have a friend who won the Oscar in 2019, and and that's how he did it. He did the Holly Shorts Film Festival here in LA. He wasn't getting into any other film festivals, and the next thing I'm watching him on the Oscars. It's accepting the award. And now he's been working pretty consistently ever since, doing various projects for as a hired producer, a producer for hire. So you can make short films, and short films are very useful because, as I found out, as I was speaking before, from the scriptwriter person, no one was going to give me money to make the bigger movie, no one at all. And the short films gave me an avenue to get in, and then I wrote some medium projects as part of my slate. When I say medium, I should say not even medium, I should say small budget, under 3 million. Anything under 3 million these days is considered low budget, small budget. That window of the 20 to 50 million dollar film has really gone away. The only people who sometimes dabble in it are people like Netflix, but they normally bump their budgets up to 60, 70 million. So that $30 million picture all of a sudden became a $60 million picture because they put Charlize Theron in it, and they're grossly overpaying her or any of the other names. But they have those kinds of resources to do that and do that successfully, and they do it well. Um, and so that sweet spot of that 20 to 50 million dollar picture is kind of gone. And so it's either the major big blockbuster you guys see, like the what do you call it, the Marvel movie, or it's the little under $3 million film that you see on streaming. Um, which brings me to the whole thing about producing movies that you can make yourself. So, well, first of all, short films you can make yourself. But normally movies, if you can write a film that's self-contained, takes place like in one location or minimum of like three or four locations, has maybe one or two leads, protagonists and antagonists, and maybe a couple supporting characters. Those movies are much easier to get made than the big action films with ensembles and with lots of moving parts and pieces. Um, those films are much, much easier to get made, and investors tend to look more favorably on that in terms of getting behind that particular project. And I say that specifically about the eighth year. In the eighth year, we have one lead female protagonist. Yes, protagonist, and we have like four antagonists that she's fighting against. And that movie takes place pretty much in one location, an insane asylum. Running up and down stairs and down hallways is what we're doing. But we've been able to get some investors for that film, and some people have come on board. We've also been able to get distributor interest for that project, and we've also been able to get some uh, potential pre-sale kind of stuff uh, through partnerships with Bonded Media Capital and Buffalo 8. So, saying all that to say that when you're thinking about, okay, how do I, the script that I have in front of me or the story that I want to tell, how can I make it, the most engaging or appealing that somebody will want to get involved? Make it small, make it a small story that delivers a lot of value to the various levels of the industry. And when I say levels of the industry, I'm talking about, the producers, directors, the writers, actors, everybody that on down. Um, and to add to that point, when you're writing a screenplay, you're really only writing for three audiences, as you guys probably know. You're writing for the office, you're writing for production, and you're writing for what I call the script industry. And the script industry are the script paloozas of the world, the blacklists of the world, Coverfly, all of those different groups. And so when you're writing, you have to think about you're writing pretty much for those three areas. But there's only of those three, there's only one group that can help, and those are the offices. So that's the group you're really writing for. That's why the experience that I had with that script writer, and he gave me those William Morris scripts. He was telling me that I'm writing for the office without telling me I'm rewriting for the office. These are the people who are going to actually be able to green like this. No one else is really going to be able to green like this. The script industry is great. As I said before, I did it myself. You gain a lot of connections, you get a lot of great feedback. Um, but no one will be able to give you $3 million, but they'll be able to help you get connections. Like when the film festival, when I went to the Catalina Film Festival with I think it was the Cage film. Yes, it was Cage. Catalina film with Cage. I got to meet Catherine Harwick. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. But she directed the vampire movie that Patty will probably know, Twilight, and she and I had a great conversation. So those do give you that access to those kinds of people that you can have in your Rolodex that who knows down the line you might be able to work with a cinema project. And because they've already met you at the film festival, they'll more apt to read it without sending you that agent manager route, which everybody loves to do. You know, you know you're this might I don't know, we're recording this, so this might be bad to say, but I'm gonna say it. You know that you're, in my opinion, you know that you're being kind of blown off when someone says to you, send it to my agent, send it to my manager, especially if you're right there with them, and or you've met them a couple times, or you've had a really good conversation. When they say send it to my agent and my manager, they basically sent you to the gatekeeper. And in my opinion, why would I need to go to the gatekeeper when we've established a rapport right now? You see what I'm saying? That makes sense. So, um, so most people will just say, "Send me your stuff" when they're that you've met through the circuit, and if they're really truly interested in working with you. So I ended up, um, I ended up making the short films, doing the short films, now working on the features, um, and I lost my train of thought in terms of the next point that I was going to make, but uh, oh, I know where I am, and so and so with the screenplays and actually now making the eighth year and working with the investors and working with all the people who want to get involved, the distributors and everybody. What I'm learning is that at the end of the day, no one's going to actually make the movie for you. You still have to make the movie, meaning you have to captain that ship. It's not unless you're trying to sell the script, and if you're somebody that's trying to just buy it from you and sell it, and you're gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may, then that's one thing. If somebody's optioning the script, that's one thing. But if you want to be actively involved, everybody's still gonna look to you to make the movie. It's not like, oh, well, Bonded Media Capital's involved, they're gonna make it. Nope, they're still gonna look to you to captain that ship. So you have to be willing to put in all that time and energy to keep the project going and to keep the project moving forward. One of the at the beginning of the agenda, there's a film festival you guys have on the agenda called Your Script Produced. I know Deval Bacall. He's in charge of that film festival, and I met Deval Bacall through Slated.com. If you guys are familiar with Slated.com, They're another service out there where you can host. They'll like they'll host your script. They have a lot of industry connections. They will basically read your script for a fee, give you feedback, give you a financial analysis. And so Deval Bakal reached out to me on Slated for the project. We talked a little bit. Nothing came of it. Um, and then I ended up meeting somebody from Warner Brothers who knew him, and so now he was kind of circling back into my orbit. We talked again. I hosted him out at Paramount. I have a small little office at Paramount, so we had lunch at Paramount. We talked some more, but we never moved. We never got to an accord. That's the best way to say it. We never got to an accord with the project for him to actually make the movie because at that point in time, and this is kind of independent of the film festival, he was looking to build his library of projects. And this is the other thing too, you guys, that you probably know already. So if I'm preaching to the choir, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Um, is that people will take your project and buy you out from your project, but still want you to stay on to make your movie, but you will no longer own your film. And the copyright is so important to make sure you can keep your copyright to your material. And he wanted basically to the copyright, and I was like, so we went from like 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, and I'm like, dude, that's too high. And so we never found an accord to actually move forward, even though we had that conversation, then we had subsequent kinds of conversations about the project. Um, so try to always, if you can, maintain your copyright, maintain the copyright on your material, and don't give that up unless you're ready, unless you're truly ready to let the project go, and no longer have that creative input.
Can I
So,
ask you a
Pat,
question about that?
yep. Hmm.
Um, why do they want to do that? Why do they want to own the copyright?
Well, the with copyright ownership, then any and all kinds of aftermarket, after residual, that goes to them. So you no longer, it's basically like a buyout. You no longer have any control of that project. Your name is still on it. You get the IMDb credit, but any and all revenues generating from that project go to them.
Okay.
And so, and most companies like to own the copyright so they can get all of that additional revenue coming off of the project. Um, so that's pretty much why they want to do it. And at that time, and actually, as I think about it, that was probably when he was just starting out with the Get Your Script Produced festival, because it was like several years ago that Duvall and I talked initially. And I think he was building his library, so he was trying to acquire as much content as he could, and but we could never reach an agreement um, with the project. So,
Okay.
did I answer the question, sort of? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
awesome. Yeah. So, so producing. So make sure you can make something self-contained that you can get produced, that get investors and distributors and everybody excited. Um, and also things that actors can do that don't take a lot of time. One of the things we often talk about is the cameo. And people, especially if you have the relationships with people, they'll do cameos for you. In fact, I have Jason doing a cameo for me. And so Jason Patrick's going to do a little cameo for me. He goes, "How long do you need me? How long is it going to take?" And I'm like, "Oh, let's do it's only be a day. You'll be fine. It's 2 scenes. It's great." And so, but those types of people in your film help you get noticed for the film. Because all they have to see is his name printed somewhere, and all of a sudden, people are gonna, "Oh, what's this about? What did he do? How did he contribute?" Um, which is great. So, but that only works, especially if they're not the lead. If they're not the star, and you don't, and it's not a big budget thing, cameo is the best way to utilize those folks where it's not taking a lot of their time. And um, and many of them don't want their name leveraged in a way that it's misleading. And by that I mean, they've only done one day, they have one scene, and you can have them as the top bill of the movie because that doesn't work. Um, what did you write, Patty? It says Geezers teasers, geezers
Geezers,
teasers.
peasers.
Yeah, that's what my son said, that on Netflix you have a bunch of geezer teasers, which is like Bruce Willis. They'll really promote that Bruce Willis is in it and all that. And, he's just got the opening shot where he's the Godfather guy or whatever, and then he gets shot, or he's never in the rest of the movie. They're geezer teasers.
Exactly. Exactly. I hadn't heard that before, but that's very true. That's exactly what they are. And um, when you talk to the actual talent, the stars themselves, they don't want that at all. They hate that. They hate to be like the focal point, and they only have like 5 seconds in the movie. So, you know, when I approach my friends and I'm like, dude, it's a cameo, and I'm not going to use your name to raise money. I'm not going to use your name to, get distribution. You know what I'm saying? But I will, I will definitely need you for the festival circuit. And most of them are fine with that. But I saw another question. Let me go to the chat because a question popped up.
It wasn't
Okay.
a question. We're talking about geezer teasers.
We're
Oh,
talking
oh,
about Patty's shady son. Yeah.
oh, Patty Shady son. That's funny. Um, I'm quite
Providing
sure it's
long
fine.
leafy tree, providing shade in a hot summer day.
I'm quite sure it's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, maybe Patty have to do some heavy editing on this on this video. We're just, all of a sudden like beep beep beep. You beep me out certain parts of the video. Um, but yeah, so uh let me say, oh, and let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to touch on. Oh, I know. The other thing is for you guys, and you guys already might know this. Well, let me back up a little bit. Me as a writer, like I said, my training from writing came from reading William Morris scripts. That's how I figured it out. And also my writers group and them telling me like not to actor proof and director proof my scripts anymore. Um, but I know that a lot of writers read like Save the Cat, and or they'll read the anatomy of a story or a script, or a hero, A Thousand Faces of a Hero, and all those wonderful books that are out there. And I will be honest and say I have not read any of them, not a single one. And so I guess I kind of fall more into the Quentin Tarantino school of like writing, directing, producing, where, if you're passionate about it and you love it, then you immerse yourself in it. So I mean, I have over like, I don't know, 900 from VHS to DVDs to Blu-rays. And I'm a avid rewatcher. I rewatch content all the time. Like, I am not ashamed to say that I've seen Avatar like 90 times. I mean, I saw it like 5 times in the movie theater. Then I bought the Blu-ray and I would just watch it at night and fall asleep to it. And I was just like, so over and over. And I think that's the best way. Well, not the best way. That's I should say that's the best way for me and worked for me. Everybody kind of works differently. But that was the best way for me to actually develop myself as a director, develop myself as a screenwriter in terms of the construction. And you'll often hear, and I think I don't know if it's Quentin Tarantino or if he just turned like 90 something. Clint Eastwood. I don't know if it was Clint or if it was Quentin Tarantino who said, you don't have to worry about the technical aspects of it, in terms of the lenses, the lights, and all of that stuff, and who goes where. Because you have all these people who that's their job and they know how to do it. Me as a director, I do like to know my lenses. I leave lighting and everything up to everybody else. I'm very quick, in our production meetings, we talk about the lighting, what I kind of want to see happen, but after that, I completely hands off. But when I'm working with my DP and we're talking about lenses and focal length, I like to know that because like certain lenses create certain moods and effects. You know what I'm saying? So, and depending on what you're doing, if you say you're shooting a film in a room, a small like a 10 by 10 room, if I didn't know lenses, I would probably shoot that all in a 50. But because I have a better understanding of lenses now, I would shoot that like on a 27 or a 35, just so I got more of the room in the frame and it looks more cinematic. You understand what I'm saying? So those kind of like little things to me became important, and so I did took some time and some effort to actually learn my lenses. But various people will tell you various things in terms of how to go about becoming a producer, becoming a director, and everybody has their take on it. But one thing I think everybody agrees on is that it's hard and perseverance is the only way to actually make it happen. And I could continue to ramble on, but I think we're like, what time is it? I think I've been talking for an hour. So with that, I'm going to take a
And it
bunch of
feels
questions.
like 2 seconds.
With that, I'm going to take a bunch of questions. Um,
Can we take a little
I don't even
bio
know what
break?
time it is.
It's
Oh
one
yes, let's take a yes,
a little bio break.
yes.
I was wondering, what do you think about with all the stuff with the AI happenings? Because it's interesting because they were talking about that contest, that sort of like it seemed like how they're gearing it to now being students mostly. It's almost like they're understanding that people are going to stop. As somebody who went to school for theater arts, so I know about a useless degree. So like, but they're realizing people are going to stop going to school for this stuff unless we make it like incentivize it. It almost feels like they're trying to make it more narrow so that it's a computer and one person that we know. What do you
Right,
think?
right. Yeah, okay, this is the thing about the AI situation. I think that AI is a great tool. It's like any other tool out there. And I will approach it from this standpoint, this story. I have a really good friend. I've known her for God, a decade and a half. And she had a story she wanted to tell about two sisters in a post-apocalyptic world. Well, when she first tried to get the movie made, she lost thousands of dollars, got unusable footage and couldn't get it done. She had a 25-person crew. She culled that crew down to like 5 people. She tried to get it again. But once again, she had horrible footage she couldn't use. She culled that team down to 3 person. Her sister, the cinematographer, and then the actors. And they only had like and she was one of the actors in it. And they had another young woman playing her sister on screen and 2 guys, 2 bad guys. And she was able this time around, spending a lot less money, the skeleton crew. She was able to actually make her movie, and she screened it in Hollywood before I left town for Mother's Day, and it was a great film, great little film. Um, that they made for literally nothing, no money at all. And then she said to us, she goes, "If you guys can stay a little bit, I want to introduce you to my AI series." And so she had basically started. She's doing this thing where she wants to read the entire book of the Bible as an AI character and fill in with AI images. So we sat and we watched her first episode. The AI character looked like her. It looked like her, and of course, it was her voice, sounded like her. The AI images, the deers and the birds and everything else she had in the background, looked not so hot, in my opinion. They didn't look that great. But I didn't tell her that, she's my friend. Are we recording this still? I didn't tell her she's my friend. And
I was about
but
to say, watch what tea you spill.
exactly. But her short film I loved. Not excuse me, her short film, it was a feature, it was an hour and 40 minutes. Her feature I loved. I thought it was great. The AI and her image in the AI looked great, and how she sounded looked great. But the other images, and I'm quite sure she's still working out the kinks with it. But her thing is that AI is inexpensive to do. There are lots of tools that you can use to get things made. And as opposed to going the route of ever making a feature film again and spending all that money and potentially losing money, but of course she learned a lot, so she won't make those same mistakes again. AI gives her a way to deliver more content faster, at a much lower cost because the tools are readily available to everybody.
Well, I
So
think that's so true because it's like, and also, but it's like a taste because it's like we were talking about Avatar, and I don't mind saying this. I don't think James Cameron is going to be watching this, but it's sort of like I don't like those movies because they look fake to me, and that's like the pinnacle of audio of like generation. Every time I see those little blue people, I'm like, this looks so fake, you know? And it's
mhm,
sort of like, and I don't think I'll ever watch those movies because of that. So I
right.
think it's just going to be like, I think AI, because it's going to get better, but I think at a certain point, it's just going to be like a taste thing, you know?
Yes, I agree with you. And my biggest concern is having been an actor too, before I became a director, writer, and all this other stuff. I know what it takes to deliver that emotion. I know the performance and all the things that go into it. And so, as a performer, as an actor, I don't want to see human beings replaced by AI. Right now there's something that you can see on YouTube where they keep showing all the Disney characters as what they would look like as real people. None of these are real people. These are all AI, but they're
Mhm.
really, really good AI. I mean, better than the Avatar stuff, better than some of the things I've seen recently. But they're really, really good. And I was showing my brother the other day. I'm like, dude, look at this, you know. And but it's frightening because if they can make the AI look so realistic, look so great, then what does that say about actors, about real people? What happens to that part of our industry, part of the artistry? So it can be very frightening. And then the eighth year, part of the eighth year has a game component. It's called the Eighth Year Night of Vengeance. And so we were talking to game developers in Canada, and they were saying to us how all we need is an actor to come in and say 5,000 words, and then we will be able to take from those 5,000 words and generate any dialogue, any scene you want. So I'm thinking to myself, like, well, how do the actors get compensated? Is there a residual for this? No, there's no residual for this. So basically the actors come in, they get paid for that session, and then we can use them and their voice forever. And I'm like, there's something inherently wrong about this. And of course, that's why SAG goes on strike, and that's why there are contract disputes and all of the things that happen because of that. Because then I saw the movie recently. Have you guys seen the movie on Netflix called G2 starring Viola Davis?
Yeah,
There's a element in
Amazon.
that. Yeah, thank Amazon, where they record the political figures saying stuff, and then they do these deep fakes to them saying these words, and her character goes, "Oh, no one's ever going to believe this," and people believe it because people fundamentally can't tell the difference, and they'll believe whatever they see in the media. So it's like
I
it's a
never thought
frightening
I'd see
situation.
Viola Davis in a movie called G2, but that happened too. So you
Yeah,
never know. Things can
yeah, yeah.
happen.
Edward, I have a few questions. Thank you also for being here. A lot of great nuggets I think you provided. I like how you were talking about
Yeah.
the audience, and when I was working on my book and thinking about screenplays, I was thinking about the people, like the genre, who likes that genre, what are the people who are going to watch it or read it. But you mentioned like the officers and the producers and the script writers, and I haven't really thought of that. So thank you for sharing that because those are people who actually sign the checks and everything, who's going to actually make the movie. So I think that was really good information. And then you
Yeah.
talked about perseverance, and one of my professors, for I think it was like actor contract negotiation class I took, she had mentioned perseverance was really important, and she had the book. She had us read the book Grit. I don't know if you ever read it by Angela Duckworth. I'll share it
No, no,
here.
no,
But
I
it's a
have not, I have not,
really
I have not read that one.
okay, it's a really great book about perseverance, and she interviews like all these different people and how they continue to persevere. Um, so that really hit home as well in terms of keep trying, because I'm trying to get a job in the entertainment industry from San Antonio, which is really hard working remotely. So now I'm something that's not related, but that doesn't mean to give up, right? It means like just keep trying and see what's out there. And then the last thing you talked about was how you learned by reading scripts. I did read Save the Cat, and I thought it was really helpful. I took a class on that, and I'm reading Screenplay by Sid Field. But I haven't really pulled up a bunch of scripts. But you mentioned that I started looking up scripts online to start to read. So I think I'm going to start doing that and reading a bunch of scripts. Do you
Mhm.
recommend reading scripts of all genres, or like if since I'm focusing like kind of on a horror story? Should I read a bunch of horror scripts? And is it, I saw some up from 90 pages and I saw some to like 150 pages. Like, should I read all of them or should I stick to a certain page range?
I would say definitely read if you're going to focus on that genre, read scripts in that genre because they're going to be written a specific way. And scripts, as you guys know already, scripts are very formulaic, and so you want to make sure that when whoever your reader is reading that script, it falls into that horror formula. You know what I'm saying? So definitely read a bunch of those. In terms of the page count only page count only doesn't matter when you are Spielberg or you are Peter Jackson or James Cameron, then page count does not matter at all. But for somebody new, page count matters. So like 90, like sweet spot on horror scripts is that 95 to 100 page range. Anything over that, they kind of get nervous. Like, oh my God, what are you writing? And so, but yeah, so unless you find a script out there that really compels you and it's a longer script like 150 pages, read it. But if not, stick with that shorter 85 to 100 because that's probably what the your buyer is going to buy, if that makes sense, you know.
Yes.
So
I just want to tag in on that right quick. So for horror films, a lot of the thing is the jump scares and it's the creature or whatnot itself. And that's going to take time in the film itself to develop. So on those scripts, they can go on the shorter side. I agree with Edward, 90 pages. If you're over 90 pages for a script, you're not going to get it made. But for the horror film, especially those ones that are creatures and stuff like that, they can go as down far down as like 67, 68 pages.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
mhm.
Hey, Edward, I wanted to ask you, you were talking about like moving to LA and just sort of like being in the industry there, that bigger. What do you make about this big movement of, because it's so expensive to film in LA, so like they're making this big thing of like trying to film in Texas right now. A lot of people are trying to do. What do you think is ever going to happen?
That's a very, very good question, Kevin. Um, and I will answer it this way. Um, for I'm gonna answer with my producer hat. For producers, it's all about the money. It's all about the incentives. So the problem with the California has and has had for a while is that even though we have a California Film Commission and they do have a budget and anybody can apply for this money, the smaller independent filmmakers never get it. When an indie film does get money, it has Anne Hathaway as a star. Technically, that's not an indie film. You know what I'm saying? She
Mhm.
has so many studio connections, and she's so known as an A-list actor that movie is not an indie movie. And that budget probably was like 35-40 million bucks, and so they're going to get the tax credit, whereas my little $3 million movie, unless I can get like Tom Cruise in it, I won't get that tax cut. So now as a producer, I'm like, well, I know that my budget is designed to include equity, it's designed to include tax credits, it's designed to include pre-sales and a gap loan of some sort, right? So if I can't get my tax credit here in California, then I'm going to go to Texas. I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to whomever else has an available tax credit. That's why one of the things we decided to do with the eighth year was shoot it in Canada. Canada has 60%. You can get a 25% provincial and a 35% federal. That's the best tax credit so far that I've heard of, out here. So, and that's better than what some of the states are offering. So it makes total sense that people say, you know what, I'm leaving LA, especially indie filmmakers, because we can't get the tax credits around our budget, and you can't build an entire budget on equity. You just can't do it. You're gonna need that pre-sale. You're gonna need that tax credit. You're going to need that gap loan. You want to keep your gap loan as small as possible because gap loans work the same as a home loan. You know, unless they're familiar with the entertainment industry. As soon as they give you that gap loan, you have to start paying it back 30 days later. That's a problem. So, in equity, of course, you have leeway there because your investors understand and you explain everything to them up front and how their investor deal works. And then, of course, pre-sales, and then the other part of the and the tax credit, how the tax credit works. So I can totally understand, filmmakers leaving to go to places like Texas to film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we just can't get the breaks that we need to get in California to be successful at it. Now, with that said, I will say that the media paints what's happening in the film industry of California to be much darker and bleak than it is. I have an office over at Paramount, and we're in production. The sound stages are busy, and there are crew people and golf carts, zipping here and there. So if it's as bleak as they say it is in the media, Paramount should be closing its doors, but they're not. And Skydance just bought Paramount, right? So Skydance and Paramount are now together. So I think that things are still getting made in Hollywood, but they're more studio driven
Mm-hmm.
picture. Um, the indie market is going needs to find other locations to be successful. Now, of course, you can argue that the CW does a lot of stuff in Canada, and they do. For the longest time, the CW shot almost everything. From the show that big off R. What was it called? Ridgecrest or Ridgewood or Ridge something.
Oh, I
It
know
was
that show. It's Rich. It's about the Archie comics. The
yes, that
Is that
Riverdale.
Riverdale?
Riverdale.
It's
That
Riverdale. Thank you.
show looks beautiful. That show is horrible, but it looks beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's all shot in up in Vancouver. So, and pretty much almost all CW stuff is shot there because you get the tax break. Because even though they're part of Warner Brothers, because they use the Warner Ranch, different things, they are not technically a studio engine. They're a TV engine. And that's a different model from the standpoint of financing. So they need, some breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you about the Bondit Media and Buffalo 8? Are those Gap Loan people? I'm a writer, not a producer, but Buffalo 8 contacted me wanting to talk, and the receptionist lady was trying to set up a meeting, and I just felt like I was getting a bum's rush kind of a thing. It's like, why are you talking to me? So I just walked away. It's like, no, no thanks, maybe some other time. Who are you? I don't know who these people are.
Uh, um, Pronounce your name for me. Is it
Oh, it's
Lies?
either Lisa
Liz?
or Lise, either way.
Lease,
Yeah.
lease, lease. Lease, I will tell you this. I completely 100% agree with you from the standpoint of the bum rush. Um, but not in the context of Buffalo 8 though. When I say that and I agree with you, I got a call years ago when I was an actor from NBC on my cell phone. And I thought, who is calling me on my cell phone? This cannot be real. Click, and later I found it was real. Oh my God, I'm kicking myself. So
You're gonna make me
the
kick myself, aren't you?
no, 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 no. But the thing is this, Buffalo 8 and Body Media Capital, they work a lot with Slated. So scripts come from scripts that do well on Slated, they're more interested in looking at, or scripts that do well in terms of the network they're plugged into, they're more interested in looking at, and they will reach out to you definitely. Yes. Um, what they do is Buffalo 8 is a production services company. So they'll do everything from development to pre-production, production, post-production. They will also help with you in terms of like building your the deck, doing budgets, putting all those parts and pieces necessary together for you. They'll also do reach outs for you for in terms of distribution to see if they can get any pre-sales on the deal, depending on who your cast is, what kind of names you have, stars, that kind of thing. Bonded is their parent company. Bonded is a financier. So they look to finance tax credit and they look to finance minimum guarantees. But they work very closely together. In other words, if you are in Buffalo 8, then they're going to work very aggressively to help you get a minimum guarantee that then they can take to their parent company to finance it. And a few years ago, I don't know if their model has changed, but a few years ago, Bonded was financing up to 80% of a minimum guarantee. So say you can get a minimum guarantee from a distributor for like 200,000, they're going to give you 80% of that money in your bank account to go off and make your movie. You see what I'm saying? So that's what Bonded does. So they're looking
And
to
now Buffalo
finance
Buffalo 8,
tax
they
credits.
Buffalo 8, they're doing all of this for a fee, right? I mean, they're
Yes. Buffalo 8 works one of two ways. If the project comes in through Bonded, then I'm quite sure there are some administrative fees that happen. If the project comes in through a different source, then they are actually looking for you to pay for their services. Yes, so you would end up paying for them to build a deck, or you end up paying for them to work with you to get your movie made. So yeah, it is. They have Buffalo is a fee-based service.
Okay, well, I'm not kicking myself then.
Exactly.
Not the way I want to go.
Exactly. They do have a fee. They do a fee-based structure. Um, but of course now some of that gets eliminated if you come in almost fully packaged. Meaning that if you just need finishing funds and you've already, the movie's kind of in the can, you just need to do some post stuff, there are no fees to that. Now it's a partnership and it's a whole different deal structure. Or if say you have your stars attached, you need some production funds, that's a whole different deal structure. But if you're coming in ground zero, your unknown quantity, there is a fee structure. At least it's how it was a few years ago. I don't know if that's still the case today. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Along those lines, what would you say for us, without the clout or the contacts? What would your strategy be for like having our scripts and trying to get the financing and get the ball rolling for some productions? Do you go out and reach out for these, or do we just kind of do the festival circuit kind of thing like we've been doing?
Yeah.
Because money's
The,
always the puzzle for us.
right. Mark, with regard to that, definitely continue the festival circuit. I mean, I still do it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think the festival circuit is great because, like I said, it gives you a lot of connections, and you never know what connection will lead to what, will lead you down what path. Um, I will say that, yeah, and one of the things that I do at Silver Shadow Pictures is we read scripts now. So I have two script readers who read for me, and we accept submissions. We accept a synopsis, and depending on if it passes the synopsis, consider, recommend, or pass, then we ask for a full script to read, and that's like a 30-day turnaround. And then if we like the script, then we try to option stuff. Like that slate of 6 features I have, I think I've only written two of them, and everything else comes from somebody else. So I'm definitely open to reading stuff, and I would just check to see other production companies, like compile a list of production companies who've made stuff, I know I'm quite sure I'm sounding like something you already heard before, but compile a list of production companies who made stuff that like the stuff you want to get made and write, and go to their websites and see if they accept script submissions and see what those subscription submissions look like. You know what I'm saying? Like on our website, you go on scripts and you go to submissions, and everything is like kind of there laid out. So
Okay, cool, cool.
Is there
Thank you.
anything you're specifically looking for these days?
good question. Good question.
Mhm.
I am always looking for dark comedy and sci-fi. Like, as Patty knows, I am a big, supernatural vampire, werewolf, guy. So anything with vampire, werewolves, or any kind of off-worlds, that's why I watch Avatar 9,000 gazillion times. Anything off-world, I'm all about. But I love a good story. So one of the features on my slate is called Bring It On Home, and it's about a widower, and his wife has had cancer and she passed away. And he was like 75, and he has grown kids, and so it's one of those family dramas. I don't know if you saw the movie called One True Thing with Meryl Streep.
Mhm.
Uh, and Renee Zellweger played her daughter, and I think Tim Hurt, I think it's Tim Hurt played the dad. Um, and so it's in the vein of that. And as soon as I read it, I was crying. I was like, oh, I gotta make this, So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, we're at 2:31 right now. Does anybody else have a question? One last question that nobody's asked or hadn't had the opportunity. Please speak up.
Thanks. Aldo left. Thanks, Aldo. Um,
Yeah, he had to leave.
mhm.
But okay, well,
Thanks, Kevin. William Hurt. I think I said Tim Hurt.
yeah, William Hurt, yeah.
I
But
love that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too.
all right, any final thoughts, Ed or Edward or advice?
Um, Thank you guys for having me. First of all, I want to say that. I would say advice: one, persevere; two, utilize the connections that you have that you acquire through the people you meet, like you, me, Sean, film festivals, other circuits. Like if you find yourself in Los Angeles and you want to come over to the studio and chat and about what you're working on, I have an open door policy with that. We'll go to lunch, we'll sit there in the executive lounge and you can stare at people with me. I do that all the time. So it's not like unnormal.
All
Like, why are
right.
you
Now I
staring at us?
just got to come out there just to do that. I'll
Right,
look
right,
impressive.
right. So but definitely continue to do it. And one other thing. YouTube, in terms of specifically for screenwriters. There are three different sites that I love, and I parrot a lot of the things that I hear them say. And so, one site is film coverage. I love them on YouTube. They always have a different, film person talking about, what makes a great protagonist, what makes a great antagonist. How do you write a villain without making the villain seeming villainous? All these kind of wonderful things. Jerry B. Jenkins is another one that I like. I like his site. And then also writing for screens. That's another site on YouTube that I like. And that guy is funny because he does his outtakes at the end, his bloopers, hilarious. But he said a lot of things that I think are important. One of the things he often says is there's no such thing as a one size fits all format for writers. You find your voice, you find your style, and you stick to that in your writing. And I really appreciate that because so many people want to say, no, you have to do it this way. No, you have to do it that way. And there's truth in that from the standpoint of formatting because it's an industry level that you have to make sure you format. But that voice you have, that's uniquely you. So
Hmm. Thank you so much. Could you put your information, your
yes.
contact information in the chat? And Lise, can you also drop the agenda, please, in the chat for people
Thank you for the reminder. We'll see if I can get that done here.
so we can, continue these connections and but boy, what a great talk. I really appreciated everything you said and lots of stuff I didn't know. And I like my favorite tip was reading scripts that are produced or that have been produced by credible agents. I mean and that really is just kind of weaning and getting through the weeds and getting to the meat, of what I could learn, from that. So that was very
Mhm.
helpful. I appreciate
All
it.
right. I put my email in the chat for you. You're very welcome, Patty. I mean, you guys have been fantastic, so I'm glad you had me. And I'm sorry if I ramble a little bit because that's how my mind works. I'm just like, "Da, da, 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 oh, da, 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 da,
Oh,
da," okay, you know.
no,
So,
you were great. You were great. Let me see. Where's your? I don't see
Yeah,
your.
I'm not seeing it.
I'm not done. My email's kind of
Oh.
long,
Oh, okay.
but um, I'm just making
He
sure
was just
everything's in
telling you his mind goes, eh, eh.
right. I mean, is there a shuttle?
And thanks,
My
Sean,
All right.
for thanks, Sean,
Oh,
for
and the website. Let me put the website in there too.
okay.
Um, but that's my email, and then that's my cell number. Um, so you can always text me. I'm better with texting than I am with calling.
Okay.
And even though my mother wants me to be better with calling, and I'm like, Mom, why are you calling me right now? And so, can you just text me? She knows it's text. She's like, no, I want to speak to you over your voice. Oh God. And so, but all right, let me see if I wrote that right. Okay, I keep doing that wrong. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do it this way. I'm just gonna grab the link and drop the
So
link
I
in.
took a screenshot. Is anybody have issues with me posting a screenshot of this on my Facebook, just saying we had the meeting?
No, go please,
Oh,
please do.
Well, I just want to make sure everybody's okay because everybody will be in it since it's a screenshot.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, no
Well,
problem.
as
well,
long as we don't look
they didn't say they
crazy,
were recording this. I would have done something different with my hair if I had known that.
right? Right? Right?
Maybe don't screenshot his phone number.
No, I did
All
not
right.
do that.
All right. All
Although
right. So
I can
that's
make you really popular, Edward.
no, no, I'm good. Thank you. And so, it's so that should be making movies at silvershadowpictures.com, and my cell phone is there, and then that's the company website. So
Okay, perfect.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the
Well,
good advice.
I so appreciate your coming again, and we will hopefully, continue this conversation. And I appreciate your time, especially
yes, yes,
sharing all this with us. We're
yep, you're very welcome. And also, Patty, I'm gonna send to you to share out with the group. I'm doing a podcast in June. And
uh,
so I'll send that out so you guys, you want to check out the podcast. You don't have to, because I'm probably just gonna be yammering about the same stuff I just talked to you about. But I am doing a podcast if you want to check it out.
That's
perfect.
all.
We will be there.
This has been
Awesome.
fantastic. So thank you so much.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
You're
you.
very, very welcome.
Everybody have a
Thank
great
you, Ed.
day.
Great to
Have a
see you
good
again.
evening.
We will.
Take
Yes.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.